In today's rapidly evolving competitive digital landscape, success isn't just about technical advancements. It's about how we think as humans and approach challenges we're faced with. In short, how we solve problems. Approaches to problem solving, creativity, and critical thinking are absolute superpowers these days because they equip individuals to generate innovative ideas, to select the right ones, and of course to implement the best and most practical solutions. So these skills enable us to adapt, to innovate and thrive, turning uncertainty into opportunity and driving progress, otherwise vulnerable to disruption by competitors and of course missed opportunities. Problem solving is the ability to identify solutions to complex issues and implement them effectively. So to do this, we use both creativity in what we call divergent thinking and critical thinking in what we call convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is when we brainstorm a set of ideas or undertake a number of investigations, encouraging open exploration and creativity. This is where we kind of think outside the box in order to keep a competitive edge. It basically helps us explore many possible solutions rather than converging on a single answer too quickly. It's a key aspect of creativity because it opens up multiple pathways, encouraging innovative ideas. So think of creativity as the ability to think outside the box and think of as many different solutions or possibilities as you can. The way this is often done in workshop environments, of which I've led many, has been to tell the workshop participants that they're in a safe space. So when you're actually getting them to brainstorm these ideas, do mention that no idea is off the table or too outlandish for this safe space, okay? And sometimes you'll be surprised that the strangest ideas actually have some weight and might lead to some sort of breakthrough in what we're trying to solve. Convergent thinking, on the other hand, helps us to focus, to evaluate, and refine the many ideas and solutions we gathered in brainstorming to arrive at a single optimal solution or best solution. Think of critical thinking as using your experience and knowledge to mark off those ideas that are best, okay? So we're being critical about what we choose. We're critical about what will be the best solution for this particular problem, okay? So we're refining an idea. So this is where we're being critical as a human before we release a product that we launch to customers to make sure that we've actually chosen the right problem to solve and are providing the right solution. So we use both divergent thinking and convergent thinking together to, one, creatively brainstorm many different pathways, and two, use critical thinking to refine and choose which are the best options to go with. So based on this, divergent thinking roughly equates to being creative, and convergent thinking roughly equates to being critical, okay? This is done in an overarching process called DesignThinking, which you may have heard of, and is a problem-solving cycle, if you like, consisting of the phases empathize. This is where we explore the user needs and insights, adopting this area of divergent thinking. 2, define. This is where we apply convergent thinking to narrow down, synthesize, and focus on the core problems. 3, ideate. This is where we employ divergent thinking to generate a wide range of solutions, not just one. Then convergent thinking to select the most viable ideas. Number 4, prototype. This is where we use convergent thinking again to develop focused prototypes, integrating key features and functionalities that are most likely to solve the problem. And 5, test. And this is where we engage both the divergent thinking to explore the new insights and convergent thinking to refine based on the feedback that we get from customers or users. So each phase of this design thinking cycle will involve either or both of divergent thinking and convergent thinking. So if I illustrate this using the development of the Apple smartwatch as an example, let's go through the 5 phases of design thinking. So if we start with number 1, which is the empathize phase that I talked about, this will be primarily divergent thinking, okay, where Apple gathered a wide range of user insights to understand their needs and pain points with the existing wearable devices, okay? So we're trying to get a feel for what problems we're trying to solve here. So Apple explored multiple user needs, all right? So instead of sticking to traditional watch interfaces, Apple brainstormed different ways to interact with the watch, collecting diverse perspectives from users about their expectations from a smartwatch, including health tracking, connectivity, and convenience. So basically, Apple here considered the broader context of how a smartwatch fits into users' lives, focusing on creating a device that was both functional and fashionable. Also, Apple would have been looking for opportunities for innovation here, okay, to be a market leader. So understand how traditional watches were failing to meet modern demands. And this is, of course, what they get from their user interactions. So then the define phase was undertaken by Apple, which mainly involved convergent thinking. So in this phase, Apple focused on synthesizing the broad range of insights gathered to clearly define what the core problems are that needed to be solved. So this involved narrowing down the issues to the specific needs that the users have, such as the desire for health tracking and improved functionality over traditional watches, which ultimately led to formulating a problem statement. So an example of this problem statement might have been consumers are seeking a more integrated, health-focused and stylish wearable device. So before, where we were using divergent thinking to explore various user needs, here we're using convergent thinking to help crystallize these into a focused problem statement. So the third stage of this design thinking cycle Apple undertook was the ideate phase. So in this ideate phase, I'll go through why it was divergent thinking first and then convergent thinking. So in the divergent thinking part of this phase, Apple brainstormed a wide range of ideas and solutions to address the defined problems. They explored multiple design concepts. They considered various designs like touchscreens, voice commands, and unique navigation methods. Apple explored many health monitoring features like heart rate tracking, ECG, and oxygen monitoring during the divergent thinking phase. So you can see that with the divergent thinking, they're brainstorming a lot of solutions to those problems that they've initially focused on. They also imagined various use cases, so thinking broadly about the different ways that the smartwatch could fit into users' lives. So after this, convergent thinking came into the ideate phase. So after generating a broad array of ideas, Apple then used this convergent thinking to critically assess which features were realistic to implement and which were necessary for the core product. So here they evaluated features like technical feasibility, could the sensors be built into the small form factor of a watch without compromising the battery life? The user benefits, were these features something users truly needed, and would they be used regularly? And of course, regulatory approval. Could the health-related features pass medical regulations and provide accurate data? So there's a bunch of things they had to take into consideration in coming up with the solution here. So through this critical convergent process, they chose to combine touch navigation with the digital crown and focused on key health features like heart rate monitoring and ECG, both impactful and feasible. Obviously, they converged on these things by talking to the users and the customers to see what was most important to them. So the fourth stage that Apple undertook of this design thinking cycle was the prototyping. This is where they primarily use convergent thinking. So here, They focused on developing tangible prototypes to test them out, just to see whether they would fit and solve the problem statement that they put forward. And you would do this by testing with real users, with real people, and in situations that will paint the picture of whether it's actually going to be successful. So these are based on the refined ideas that came up in the previous phase. So Apple created focused prototypes, all right? So this is building prototypes that incorporated the best features from the ideation phase, such as the digital crown I mentioned before, a new design element of physical interface that lets users scroll and zoom without obstructing the screen, a solution that came from exploring multiple ways to interact with a small device. So this was a hurdle that they needed to get over. Apple tested and iterated these. So when I say iterated, they built something, tested it, then improved on it, then tested it, and then improved on it again based on all the feedback. They evaluated those prototypes to ensure they met those technical and user requirements, as well as the regulatory requirements, refining based on the feedback of the customer as well. So based on all this iteration and feedback in this prototype phase, you may actually need to do more divergent thinking, which is brainstorming more ways of solving the problems that may come up from a result of unintended test results. So this will still occur as new insights from the prototype testing lead to further exploration and adjustments. So we do this prototyping to cater for those unknowns that come up, and this is the beauty of iterative or agile type development. Following on from that, Apple went into the official test phase where they used divergent thinking, where they gathered the feedback from the users, all those different point of views about what they thought about the product in the different testing scenarios from the users and customers, which would reveal new insights or areas of improvement. So based on this, they considered the users' reactions and suggestions, leading to any new potential ideas or adjustments in the product, and then used convergent thinking after collecting that feedback to hone in on the informed decisions about their final adjustments, okay? They analysed this feedback, prioritising the most critical changes and improvements based on user responses and technical constraints, and then refined that product, making the final tweaks to balance the performance, functionality, and the user experience, okay? So design thinking ties together all of the elements, and this development of the smartwatch does exemplify how design thinking integrates creativity and critical thinking as this very powerful problem-solving method. And by leveraging divergent and convergent thinking, Apple was able to identify and solve complex problems, an example being transforming a traditional accessory into a multifunctional device, generate innovative solutions, example, reimagining the smartwatch features and design, and finally, making informed decisions, refining design and functionality through user testing and feedback loops. So these iterative loops through the design thinking process are absolutely crucial for navigating and thriving in a constantly changing competitive environment, okay? It's absolutely essential to keep in touch with those customers and users through that development process, not when it goes out to the market and finding that that's not what they wanted. So if you've enjoyed today's video and learnt something, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Digital Skills with Andrew. Like this video, share with others who might benefit from it, and until my next video, stay informed.